Welcome to the One Shot Show where GMs go to level up. Please don't leave this podcast, but today we are talking about leaving behind D&D 5e.
Yeah.
My name is Mock.
My name is Matt, and I want to title this something like How to Break Up with 5th Edition.
Ooh.
Because that's what I think we really want to get into the heart of here, because I understand how it feels.
Mm-hmm.
I know that when you and 5th Edition first met, it was like sparks. It was this whole new world that you never knew existed. You felt this incredible closeness.
They took you gently by the hand for your very first game and the magic happened.
And even though some parts of it maybe felt a little bit difficult to begin with, there were these inscrutable things that you didn't quite understand.
They taught you everything you know.
Yeah, you've become so totally fluent, which means now you almost don't want to look directly at the fact that you just don't feel the same way about 5th Edition anymore.
It's becoming a little bit stale.
A little bit tired.
Repetitive. The spark is gone.
You're starting to consider that maybe you and 5th Edition don't want the same things anymore.
You're looking at 5th Edition's very close relative over there, Pathfinder, and you're like, wow, you've got everything 5th Edition has, but maybe a little bit more.
And you're thinking, is it appropriate to ask out 5th Edition's hottest sister? And the answer is yes. And we're going to teach you how.
Yes,
but
it is.
What I actually want to get into genuinely is there's, I guess, a piece of history here, which is that, 5th Edition has done something incredible to the TTRPG hobby as a whole, and that it has opened it up to a larger number of people than ever before.
5th Edition has been really getting around.
And everyone's given it a go at this point, including your mates who you see every single week to play 5th Edition. That's
it
what I
is
was getting
very
at.
accessible.
And accessible, sure, yeah. And I would say D&D specifically goes through these cycles, every other edition just about where, you get a whole bunch of people into it. It grows the hobby, it grows the audience base, and then the interest sort of wanes a little bit, and people start looking further afield. Happened with 1st edition, happened with 3rd edition, and now it's happening again with 5th edition. I think it has brought more people than ever before into the hobby. It has made it, dare I say, mainstream in one of the most fantastic ways I think people like us who grew up playing these games could ever have dreamed of. But also, as always happens with these audiences, I think people reach a point of maturity. If the first thing you ever play is Dungeons & Dragons, whatever edition you happen to start with, you often reach a point where it's got a little bit tired, a little bit stale, and you start to think, are there other things out there? Are there other games in this format, in this medium that I could engage with? And the answer is yes. The reason I think we need a how-to guide on this is I think the GM is likely to feel that feeling like a full calendar year before the players at their table will.
Oh, yeah.
And by the way, you might have noticed every episode thus far, we have used the term GM on purpose because we like to think of this as a system agnostic show. We talk a lot about fantasy RPGs, which tends to mean D&D and its nearby analogs like Pathfinder. But I really want to get into how you as a GM can identify the other systems that you're actually interested in, and then get your players just as frothing at the mouth to play those other systems as you are, no matter what they are. Maybe it's not D&D 5th Edition's hot sister Pathfinder 2e. Maybe it's actually this girl you just met off Tinder called Cyberpunk Red. Or maybe it's your, that friend of your mum who has that boy they're trying to set you up with all the time, and his name is The Witcher RPG. Maybe it's Tales from the Loop. Maybe it's Dungeon World, 5th Edition's younger sister, because you like that.
You want to have a little bit of a taste of multiple different games. Now, Matt, how have
you a GURPS guy? Is that where you're going with that? You're like, why have one woman when you can have all of them in one woman?
Matt, how did you approach getting into other systems? And what challenges did you find? Because I've got some challenges that I want to bring up, but I want to hear from you a little bit first.
So, look, the first foray for us, we benefited, I think, from a couple of things. First of all, my first edition was actually 3.5. I only played a little bit of it. I didn't really get into it until the 5th edition days, but I had another player at my table who had played, who'd also played in 3.5, quite a bit more than I had.
3.5 is like having a really high maintenance partner.
Yeah.
And then you go to 5th edition and everything is so much easier.
So easy.
Oh my gosh.
I already had some people who were a little bit interested in they understood this idea that you're not just married forever to this one system, the first one that you happen to play with. The other players were it was a little bit harder to get them around to it.
Why was it hard
Pathfinder
to get them
edition,
around to a different system?
I'll get to that. Pathfinder 2nd edition fell on my radar. I put it in front of my players well in advance, like well in advance. We planned out how we were going to make this potential transition within our regular game. And I just sort of forced the issue. I was like, look, guys, we've been playing this particular campaign for a number of years. I was already homebrewing quite aggressively. I had these custom classes and things, things that my players quite enjoyed. But because of that, they tacitly understood that there were things that they were tired about. The initial pushback was just down to system fluency. They were so used to 5th edition that they didn't want to change. That's normal. So what I did is I focused a lot on the reasons that they might not be actually as in love with 5th edition as they might think they are. And then the other thing I did is I just forced them. I put them on a blind date with Pathfinder 2nd edition and made them get along with it. And genuinely, I had one player who showed up to that first one shot I ran with 2nd edition, who made a character that was like bad on purpose. He'd dumped statted strength, he'd taken really heavy armor so that his movement speed was like 10 feet or something ridiculous. And at the end of it, he genuinely said to me, I made this character that was bad on purpose because I wanted so badly to not have a good time, and I had a good time.
So something really interesting there is when you're introducing a group to a new game. This is exactly what I did with Pathfinder 2nd edition as well. I said to my group, I would love to play this new system, and I'm going to learn the rules. And what we're all going to do, I'm going to get player buy-in, which is something that I know I've never said before.
Doesn't come up very much.
And we were all going to learn the rules together because there is one really huge thing, the biggest thing that stops people from changing systems. And I have brought a physical prop into the studio here to really illustrate this. And that is the Pathfinder 2nd edition core rulebook. Now, Matt,
I love this thing.
Do you know how many pages this beast is?
Roughly, I want to say it's roughly 600, 500?
You want to say roughly 600? You have actually undersold it. Actually, it's about 600 and something pages long.
There you go.
And if you listen, it's a modern world. We're all busy people. Nobody has time to read a 600-page rulebook. Let alone if you are the game master and you also have to read 3 bestiaries full of monsters. You need at least one of these to run the game, and these bestiaries together.
That's how you say it. I say it's bestiary.
Bestiary.
Even though it's spelled bestiary.
Spelled bestiary.
Yeah, look
I
at
can
it.
get on board with bestiary. I
By
think
the way,
it is the best.
If you're listening and not watching on Patreon, he's just put a bunch of hearty tomes on the table.
True.
But I'll tell you what made this really easy for my players.
Yep.
Is I picked up this here core rulebook.
You did, yep.
And I went, see this? That's the part you don't need to learn. That's the part I need to learn.
So you're trying to make it more accessible, reduce the load on your players.
Because honestly, all they needed to learn, the character bit was pretty straightforward once they understood how it was structured. And all the stuff at the back with all the items and all of that, they didn't really need to worry about that for the first time around. Here's the section, this tiny little section that has all the mechanics of like how to move, how to make rolls. That was all pretty straightforward. A whole bunch of the stuff in the middle, you don't need to worry about it until you need to worry about it.
Something you're describing
There's a setting guide. This is a setting guide. It's a setting guide. It's an armory. It's a repository of all sorts of useful tips and tricks and rules. And the reason, even if you pull out of that stuff out, it's still going to be bigger than 5th edition's player handbook. And the reason for that is because there's more in it than 5th edition.
Now, something you're describing there is the GM taking on all of the weight of learning everything all at once and then introducing new people to the system. And that is a lot of work. And there's actually a really difficult way to learn a game is by sitting down and reading how it would work in theory. But a way that you absolutely can leave Dungeons & Dragons behind is by finding someone who's already done that work, play in a couple of games, and just let them know, hey, I'm completely new. And you will find that game masters will be like, a newbie? I am so enthusiastic about having you here to play this game, and that's how I learned how to play things like Edge of the Empire for Star Wars or Call of Cthulhu, where I'm showing up and I'm like, listen, I got no idea how the fuck this thing is going to work. Can you please, I'm a little baby, please lead me through this.
I now fulfill that role for other people a whole bunch. Anytime I players drop off over time, people get busy, people move cities and so on. So every so often I put up a looking for group pay post rather, and I'll mention that it's Pathfinder 2nd Edition, and I will get people who respond going, I run games and I want to learn how to play Pathfinder 2nd Edition so that I can introduce my group to it. Do you mind if I join your game?
Yeah.
Perfect. Absolutely, I'd love to do that. All of us learned, absolutely, we're happy to teach you. We've already gone through that process.
Yeah.
We know exactly what it's like, and we know exactly how it's different to probably what you already know. One of the things that my regular group did when we made the switch initially, if we're talking about how to break up with 5th Edition, once you pass that point of the breakup and you're starting to date again and you're trying out these new systems, you can just say, it's been a while since I've been on dates. And that's what we did. We all sat around the table. I got things wrong. They got things wrong. We constantly got things wrong, but we all sat down and went, look, we're all just learning the system. Don't worry about it too much for like the first, 2 months, 3 months. Who cares? We'll get there eventually. Yeah. We will get to that same point of system fluency. We don't have to start from there, and we certainly didn't start from there with 5th Edition. One of the reasons 5th Edition is propagated as well as it has is because for that first bit, you don't realize how little you actually understand about the system.
Yeah.
Whereas for a system that on the surface looks a lot crunchier, like Pathfinder 2nd Edition, you're a lot more aware of all of the things you don't know. And part of that is also because you've gone through that learning curve of 5th Edition, and now you are aware of how many things you didn't know when you started. So anytime you start something new, you're aware of those same things. People who started with 3.5 had the exact same thought. They went, man, look at all these things I know now. How could I ever start again? And they started with a system that was far crunchier and far more obtuse from the outset than 5th Edition ever was.
But I have really, really good news. Not every single game has a 600-page rulebook that costs over $100 to buy. Lots of games might only take 1 page or 2 pages full of rules.
Many are free online. They have PDFs that you can just download and send and share around.
They kind of straddle that line between TTRPG and like a casual party game. There are so many of these that you could simply sit down with some people at a party, hand out some basic dice, and say, there was a really fun one that I wrote a Christmas-themed game for called Goblin with a Fat Ass. It was 2 pages long.
And he couldn't fit down the chimney, I take it.
We had to, listen, Santa was union busting the elves. They called the goblins in, and the goblins had to ruin Christmas.
They're like in the workshop, like, a lot of nice things you got here, Mr. Claus.
That is exactly the vibe. And my one shot for Goblin with a Fat Ass was, there's my idea for the game. I've got 2 pages of rules. It's real simple. You get a bunch of D6s, and the fatter your ass is, the more dice you can roll. So it's not all serious D&D, Cyberpunk, Pathfinder, Star Wars. A lot of it is like Honey Heist, Everyone is John, Goblin with a Fat Ass. There's a lot of really fun, extremely simple games out there. You can have your players just have like a one-night stand with someone real simple, someone real easy. They don't have a lot of depth. You don't need it.
And you'll never talk to them again. You don't have to.
You don't have to.
You don't have to heist the honey a second time around. It's fine.
If you've experienced all the honey they have to offer, you can just move on.
Yeah. The real other side of that, though, is obviously for those more in-depth systems. Because what if you don't just want a one-off fling? What if you do want something a bit more serious, a bit more long-term? Look, maybe it's not your forever system. You're still open to other things, but you would like to try out something else that you're really going to get a little bit more invested in. And it's definitely not 5th Edition or any of her siblings. It is this totally different thing. I've talked a bit in the past very vaguely about things like Cyberpunk, about things like Fallout role-playing system. You mentioned Star Wars, Age of the Empire earlier. There's a whole bunch of different ones as well for Warhammer. One of the easiest ways to get your players interested in a non-5th edition, non-fantasy, but still big, robust, long-form, crunchier RPG is have it be a genre they already know. Have it be an IP they are already familiar with. It was quite easy to get most of my friends to try out a Warhammer role-playing system because a couple of us play Warhammer, and the ones who don't wanted to keep playing with the group. Right? And I'll let you in on a secret. If you really want to try out, say, the Fallout RPG, and none of your regular players have ever played Fallout or watched the recent TV show or care in any way, shape, or form about it, you can go find people who do.
Or
You can go find people who are fans of Fallout who want to try that system or who might have already even played it and are happy to bring you into that fold.
this is true. There is also a shortage of GMs in general.
Yeah.
Like, you might be able to say, hey, guys, this is what we're playing. And your players will be like, well, I don't want to run anything, but I'll happily play whatever you put in front of me so long as you tell me how it works.
Exactly. I actually think sometimes that can be hard to do within an established group because you say there's a shortage of GMs, but as far as an established group is concerned, there's exactly the right number of GMs, which is one.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can pull rank and say, I'm playing this, and either you're coming along or you're not. But, if they say, no, I'd rather not, there is also a degree to which I would like to keep playing regular games with my friends.
Yeah.
And sometimes you do have a little bit of that compromise. Something that my regular group does a little bit of is sometimes we'll have, little bits of downtime between some of the longer form games that I tend to run. And we'll try something else out. Or maybe we'll do a little, we'll have a bit of a spin-off group that runs on a weeknight instead. And it's 3 of the players from the main group and then 1 extra guy that we bring in because they absolutely love Fallout and want to play that. And that's another really great way of doing it is have it just be this extra thing you do on the side. Hey, look, we're going to try this thing out for a week while we're taking a bit of a break from the main campaign over Christmas since not everyone's in town.
That is exactly how I introduced one of my groups to Pathfinder. We had a gap between some campaigns. We had about, 3 or 4 weeks while the next GM was gearing up. And I said, hey, in this gap, let's keep meeting up. Let's play something a little bit different. None of us have any idea what the fuck we're doing, but we're going to try it anyway. And that was a really, really nice way to have some players show up. And if you are messing things up and getting things wrong, sometimes you also have wonderful discoveries about how brand new things work. And it's really, really nice.
And look, it's better to be single than to be in a bad relationship. And they say no D&D is better than bad D&D. But there's something else out there for you.
There's so many other things out there for
There's
you.
definitely something that's right for you. And if you are starting to grow a little bit tired of 5th edition with all of her quirks and foibles and
Or if you're
you
homebrewing
love,
it so much it's barely D&D anymore at all.
there may be things you still love and there may be things that you just can't stand anymore.
Yeah.
There's someone else out there for you, and it's important that you learn how to break up with 5th edition.
And that's it. That's it from us here at the One Shot Show.
If you like what you just heard, feel free to support us on Patreon. Every little bit helps. Go to patreon.com/oneshotshow.